Total fabrication. This one was invented by a writer. It's false. It's a fake. It's fiction. It's a no way. We got you.
But I want to do something that I don't typically do. I want to do something that I avoid on this program because I understand how the corporate media news ecosystem works. Corporate media works like this. They publish a hoax, and the value of the hoax, and I have been subject to many hoaxes myself, and I have worked in the corporate media for my entire life, so I actually understand how the system works more than most. The hoax is meant to do the damage, the smearing. None of it is true. The value of the hoax is just in the smearing itself. If they can get the headline out of it, there's the psyop. The goal is just get the headline. Get the psyop up and out. Get someone to print it, have it travel, and then who gives a damn about the actual truth? And so what I typically, you will not find on this program, is hoaxes. We do not do hoaxes. We bring people on who may have been subject to hoaxes and we debunk. We actually are founded entirely upon truth. If we ever get something wrong, we apologize. That's what makes us better than them. That's why we're thankful that you subscribe. We're very happy to be part of this movement because this is a movement of truth and we're going to be better than the corporate media. And so it is important for me not to amplify hoaxes. Part of the ecosystem of the corporate media is Donald Trump colludes with Russia to win the election. Then they can amplify that. They can start a special counsel. None of it's real, but the damage is done. That's how the machine works. So we're not going to be part of that damn machine, right? And so, ladies and gentlemen, this, you can see here. There it is. Look at this screen. These are all the headlines that have been created out of the new Trump hoaxes. There are new Trump hoaxes that are dropping. Every one of them has been debunked, which is why I do not want, I was on the phone with ALX earlier. I was like, I do not want to give oxygen to fake desperation, demonic Trump hoaxes as they demon scream get dragged back into hell. But since these things are so wildly and easily debunked, I guess, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is we're going to spend a short period of time today talking through what has dropped, because they've dropped 3 new Trump hoaxes in quick sequence. And we're going to rip through them like a hot knife through sweet salted butter. I'm going to show you exactly how desperate the regime is. I'll begin by saying we have been talking about this the entire week. We broadcast on this program first that Kamala Harris would be dropping out of the campaign, that she would be like taking days off. Little birdies have been telling us some very interesting things from inside of the campaign. Some of it we can run with right now, some of it we can't. But we are predicting the future. The future for Kamala Harris is not very bright. Kamala Harris is going to lose. We should not take our foot off the gas. They know Kamala Harris is going to lose. And the goal now is a desperate attempt to just hold the side up. Just keep the Democratic Party together. Can the train stay on the tracks, or will this entire thing reverse shift into a new Republican nation paradigm with a brand new landscape remade by Donald Trump of Donald Trump's coalition of America First? Blacks, Latinos, working class people, real Americans, all fighting for our collective future. It's been a massive historical, biblical backfire. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. What's happening now is the desperation attempts of a regime to stop that switch from happening. The switch was supposed to be Barack Obama creating a new permanent single-party coalition of the dispossessed moving forward and governing into eternity. What Donald Trump has done is once again swagger jack Barack Obama and create literally piss in his punch bowl and create his own new, durable movement that may well become the leading, that is without question the largest and most energetic political movement in my lifetime, and may well go on to be the ruling movement of the next generation, the America First movement. I don't think there's any return for the woke. The woke have done it. They've burnt themselves to the ground. And these are the desperate flailings to try and just defend against the destruction and the atomization of their movement. Okay, here we go. The new hoax, The Guardian. Donald Trump did something inappropriate to me. 30 years ago, Donald Trump touched me in what felt like a twisted game, according to British tabloid. Stacey Williams says the ex-president, whose spokesperson denied the allegations, touched her in 1993 with Epstein. Epstein introducing them. Okay. Let's begin. If something happened to you 30 years ago and you decide not to say anything about it when Donald Trump was a public figure for that entire time, when Donald Trump ran for president, when Donald Trump toyed with running for president in 2012, ran for president in 2016, ran for president in 2020, that has been running for president for the better part of the last 3 years, then in October, you suddenly feel compelled to say something about it, days before the election, then forgive me, but I do not give any credit. You are Christine Blasey Ford, as far as I'm concerned. I do not give any, this is absolute and total opportunism. And none of the facts line up. Also, this individual is an Obama donor and supporter and activist. So, there's absolutely nothing that passes the smell test on this. Also, interestingly enough, they're trying to tie in Epstein's name to this. Let's do a little fact check on Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, who was an intel op, was tasked with an unlimited resources credit card in order to go and compromise important people in our country so that they could be held in check. Which foreign nations were running Jeffrey Epstein and which domestic organizations were running Jeffrey Epstein? I don't feel confident I can say them right now. But here's what I do know. I know, as a matter of fact, that he was working for Intel because that's what Alex Acosta said when he was asked why he let Jeffrey Epstein off the hook on his first sexual predator charges that he caught here in Florida in 1998. Alex Acosta said, under oath, I was told he belongs to Intel, so I had to give him up. It was above my pay grade. Alex Acosta said that. It's in the congressional testimony. It's on camera. You can see it. Jeffrey Epstein belonged to Intel. This Intel app was to go after people like Donald Trump, and they were able to get people like Bill Gates. Oh, suddenly, Bill Gates is donating to the Democrat Party. Isn't that interesting? They were able to get people like Bill Clinton. They were able to get some of the biggest names in the movement, in the country, right? In the greater political and cultural zeitgeist. That's what the op was for Jeffrey Epstein. One single man, testified against and worked to put Jeffrey Epstein behind prison and behind bars. One single billionaire in this country, as far as we know, one billionaire in this country worked with the prosecution to make sure that Jeffrey Epstein caught a case in Palm Beach for his sick crimes. One person banned Jeffrey Epstein from his properties and his clubs, and that man is Donald Trump. You can go check with the lawyers who put Jeffrey Epstein behind bars. They praise Donald Trump's name. They sing on his name. They say that Donald Trump is one man who showed up to help us, to put away Jeffrey Epstein. So this fantasy that somehow Donald Trump is some kind of lecherous Jeffrey Epstein friend, ally, and criminal consult, that is utterly and totally debunked by the facts, but also debunked by the hard facts that, according to this tabloid, according to our sources, this hit on Trump had been shopped around like the Access Hollywood tape. This thing has been shopped around to every news publication. Somewhere upwards of 30 to 40 news publications have passed on the story because there is no merit to it. There is no proof to it. There is nothing other than libelous accusations that ring really hard against the actual accuser, given the timing and nature of them, given Donald Trump's history with Jeffrey Epstein, and most importantly, given the total factual inaccuracies of the testimony. Late winter of 1993, I was on a walk with Jeffrey Epstein in his brownstone on the Upper East Side down Fifth Avenue when Jeffrey looked up at me and said, let's stop by and see Trump. Okay, that's what this individual alleges. However, Epstein only moved into the Wexler mansion, rather famous as the FBI raided it and so on, in 1996. So you're talking about like what, time traveling now? Garbage. Complete garbage. Debunked. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, maybe not hundreds, but dozens of outlets passed on this story. Axios, Bloomberg, CBS, CNN, allies have all said that they were approached about the story 3 weeks ago. They all passed. People are saying effectively that this person has absolutely no credibility, and that the open and blatant bloody cheek of opportunism kind of rings quite loudly here. Okay, here we go. So Donald Trump, story about the general. Apparently, Donald Trump was really mean to a general, general and his family during his funeral. Okay, at the White House. So let's go ahead and look at this. I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. Trump's obsession with dictators and disdain for America's military is deepening. Writes the guy who brought you the Iraq War. So this is what The Atlantic published. Total smear. I don't want to spend too much time on it because all of it's fake. None of it's real. All of it is based on nameless, faceless sources. And we all know what those sources mean. But let me tell you, somebody who does have the bravery to stand up, the actual families that are implicated in this. Here we go. From Myra Gulen. Okay, Myra Gulen. Wow, I don't appreciate how you are exploiting my sister's death for politics. Hurtful and disrespectful to the important changes that she made for service members. President Donald Trump did nothing but show respect for my family and Vanessa. In fact, I voted for President Trump today. Nick Ayers, who was chief of staff at the White House and working with President Trump in the room. I've avoided commenting on intra-staff leaks or rumors or even lies as it relates to my time at the White House. But General Kelly's comments regarding President Trump are too egregious to ignore. I was with each of them and most. His commentary is patently false. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Trump volunteered to pay for the funeral of a murdered soldier. Excuse me. The allegations are that Donald Trump didn't want to pay for the funeral of someone and then called them a racial slur. Ladies and gentlemen, now you have multiple members of Trump's actual staff coming forward and saying that this is a complete and total hoax. All of these allegations have been debunked by the family or people that are still inside of the still inside or outside of the Trump orbit who were in the room at the time. This is the Trump former national security advisor, ladies and gentlemen, Keith Kellogg. Vice President Harris is a fraud. I was in the White House at a senior level much longer than General Kelly. He is complicit in this fraud and has lied to the American people. His lies, as well as John Bolton's, are a disservice to this nation in this critical time. So are the vice presidents. Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Kamala Harris, in total and complete coordination with this story, this shows you exactly how sick the regime is, coordination with the story, did a mini press conference last night, one day ago, where Kamala runs out and screams that Donald Trump's Hitler. This is just hours after Barack Obama muled and lamented that the country is too divided. How did we ever start hating each other, says Barack Obama, as he sends his little cretin out to call Donald Trump Hitler based on a totally and completely debunked story. Here's this repulsive Kamala Harris press conference.
It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas.
Do you see how that works? We've often played you the clip. We don't need to play right now, but we've often played you the clip of the wrap-up smear with Nancy Pelosi, where in a fit of pique or sobriety, Nancy Pelosi explains how Democrat weaponization of the media and lies works. It's very simple. You make up a lie about your opponent, you merchandise it to the press, and then you do a press conference on the reports. So they made up a lie about Donald Trump, that he loves Hitler, that he disrespects our military. We all know those things to be false. And then they bring that, it comes from within the Democrat Party. They take that to their urchins at the Atlantic, the little goblins that write these things. The guy who created the Iraq War, the guy who was the number one defender of the Iraq War, Jeffrey Goldberg, completely disgraced, fraud. They have them write it. So the press writes it. They merchandise it. And then you're able to do a press conference and point to the article and say, wow, look at that. You wrote the article. Nancy Pelosi actually explains this in absolute and total, explains this point for point. And you're seeing it happen here. This isn't journalism. This is the most slanderous and despicable form of grievance lifting. And it falls completely flat. I mean, it really does. It really does. Check out some of these responses. Okay, they're comparing Trump with Hitler, the guy who has Jewish ancestors, Jewish son-in-law, and Jewish grandchildren. Why would he endorse Hitler and his generals? At least they make up a story that we can believe. Yeah, that's exactly right. Here's photos of Donald Trump wearing a yarmulke with Ben Shapiro. Story falls flat, with witnesses debunking it as proof that real Donald Trump is the furthest thing from Hitler. Same playbook, over and over again, used devoid of truth is pathetic. This is how Biden started his campaign before he was overthrown, and it's how Kamala is finishing. It reeks of desperation, and it is laughable. You can see the multiple people who were in the room that were assisting with the families that have said this is totally and patently untrue. Like, at what point does the Atlantic must be sued for this? Like, at what point do you just drop lawsuits and say, prove it? You publish this. This is defamatory. Prove it. There are multiple people. You can prove defamation in these things. If you have multiple witnesses that are fact witnesses that can come forward and say what you wrote is completely false and it's caused damage to me, then you can sue. Defamation law is very clear about this. They should sue. Theo World. I was at President Trump's meeting with the Gulen family. This is the family that he apparently disrespected upon their funeral, because I assisted with the translation that day. President Trump was genuinely concerned about Vanessa Gulen and appalled by the tragedy they were enduring. The Gulen family was poised and confident, advocating for the sister, and it's right again today. The Atlantic hit piece is a lie. For example, President Trump had zero interest in the cameras. He met with the family privately for 20 minutes, offered the press gaggle solely if it would assist them in honoring the Army Specialist Gulen and raising awareness for her case. He just told them that day that the press are vipers. Boy, was President Trump right. Just person after person after person. Look, can you please go to the last slide here with President Trump? There you go. Whew, man. Worst Hitler impression on earth. I'll say it. But absolutely, like, if there are people who actually do Hitler impressions. Like, this is the worst Hitler impression on earth. You want a better Hitler impression? Go look at how Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have talked about Jewish people. You want a better Hitler impression? Why don't you go look at like how Kamala Harris has praised these anti-Semitic movements on our campuses that like openly seek to attack Jewish students, and they like do takeovers of like downtown New York City in order to eradicate entirely the state of Israel. Chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What does that mean? From the river to the sea. Well, that means there's no more state of Israel. Kamala Harris sides with those people, advocates for those people, allows those people to burn American flags. Like, if you want a better impression of an anti-Semitic, megalomaniacal, mass-murdering maniac, look no further than the modern Democrat Party and the visage of that refuse of a political movement. This is why it all falls flat. Ladies and gentlemen, Kayleigh McEnany on debunking this, which is, of course, a perfect person to do this because Kayleigh McEnany, as press secretary, is in all these meetings. Let's go.
I heard this overnight. So this is The Atlantic. It's Jeffrey Goldberg. And here's the headlines from The Atlantic. Trump, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. And you can see the subtitle there, the Republican nominee's preoccupation with dictators. And it goes on. When I saw this, first, they talk about a meeting with the Guillen family. The Guillen family tragically lost their sister, lost their daughter. She served our country honorably. And they characterize a meeting, one in which I was in. I was not in this December meeting they speak of, but a meeting with this family. And here's what the sister said about this story. Wow, I don't appreciate how you all are exploiting my sister's death for politics, hurtful, deceitful. The important changes she made for service members, and indeed she did. President Donald Trump did nothing but show respect to my family and Vanessa. I was in that July meeting. That was undoubtedly the case. But the reason my antennas went up last night when I saw the name Jeffrey Goldberg is because I was on a tarmac in September of 2020, and a story popped from him in The Atlantic, and it was the suckers and losers story we have all heard. Within hours, I was able to collect more than a dozen individuals, several who were firsthand sources saying that never happened. Zach Fuentes, who was an aide of John Kelly, came out and said that never happened. We found contemporaneous documents disputing the reporter who said Trump did not go to the cemetery, not because of a bad weather call. John Bolton's book disputes that. We found a contemporaneous document to dispute that. My point is, this is based on 4 anonymous sources, 2 weeks before an election, 100%. Disputed by people on the record, and yet it led a CBS News broadcast. What a shame.
Did they
what
include
a shame.
your portion? Did they include?
No, they never reached out to me. I was in that first meeting, never reached out to me. But I will say this quickly. Donald Trump, I have never seen him more downtrodden than when the suckers and losers story came out. He normally, stuff came out of about his finances, fake stories. He didn't care. He was devastated by that story. I remember him saying, what kind of monster would ever say words like that? This is shameful reporting from The Atlantic, in my opinion.
Despicable. Truly and totally despicable. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump responding as these fake stories break, and also as the panic sets in. These are not the actions of people who are winning. These are the actions of people who are losing, who are desperate, who are flailing, and much like a wounded, ravenous, rabies-filled animal, will just bite at or scratch at anything that they can possibly get their claws on. Comrade Kamala Harris sees that she is losing, and losing badly, especially after stealing the race from crooked Joe Biden. Now she is increasingly raising her rhetoric, going so far as to call me Adolf Hitler and anything else that comes into her warped mind. She's a threat to democracy, not fit to be president of the United States, as her polling indicates. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a perfect response. Don't even dignify it. Ooh, man.